You're just gonna keep going?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Enter the Abyss. This is a special episode. It's our second listener submission episode.
Right. So we've had two people request Dyatlov Pass.
And it was my brother Bo was one of them. Who was the other one?
Isay. Old friend from work.
Awesome. Well, you two, thank you so much for requesting this topic. It was definitely on our to-do list, but your suggestions moved it right up to the top, so thank you.
And for anyone that has any other suggestions, please send it to our email address. It's entertheabysspod@gmail.com.
Nice. So that's the first topic, and we also had another
Fuck!
Scared the shit out of me. God damn it. Why are you fucking screaming, bro?
I just thought it was funny in the moment.
And the second subject we have requested is actually by a listener by the name of Chris, and he suggested the Ohio Penitentiary.
Spooky stuff. Prison is the worst.
Have you been?
I can hear you there, Britton. I don't know what you said. Let's just move on.
All right, moving on.
So, Dyatlov's Pass, man, that stuff is weird. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, but I've never done a deep dive into it. I'm really excited that we're doing this one.
It reminds me of a little bit of our episode on Skinwalker Ranch. It's like these, they're like classics that have almost everything in them, you know?
Yeah.
Like everything is just packaged into one spot when it comes to the supernatural.
I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, but I know that some people end up being found dead, and it's like a classic whodunit, and why?
Whodunit?
I'm just excited that we're getting more viewer submissions in here. I mean, it really makes it easy picking a topic because they're just given to us, and doing the research is always exciting. So again, I mean, we don't want to sound like broken records, but send them in, you guys. I mean, you know how to get a hold of us. We're happy to do any subject that's creepy, otherworldly, serial killers, whatever. Just send it on in. I will tell you, though, Cleet, there's something I want you to try. Maybe not right this second, but my wife came to me last night, and she's like, hey, pull out your phone. So I did, and she's like, okay, I want you to call this number.
Oh, yeah? What's the number?
So the number is, let me pull my phone and get it for you.
Better not be golf tips.
No, I wouldn't do that to you, Cleet. This is better. The number is 908-666-4419. Now, any number that has 666 in there, I'm sure you can imagine it's probably pretty intense.
It's probably calling the Hellfire Club.
Yeah. But if you're feeling a little brave, go ahead and give that number a call. I suggest doing it in the dark when you're alone for the full effect.
Can we just do it on speaker right now? It's fucking stopping you.
All right, let's
do it.
Let's do it. For audio purposes, hopefully it comes through just fine. But
it'll come fine. Put it on this mic, though.
All right, let's do this. Call the number now.
Send me a text about the gray man who was hungry for human flesh.
If you'd like to make a call, please hang up and try again.
If you need help, hang up and then call home.
And then it hangs up.
Did it say to send a text?
Yeah.
Dude, throw it a text. I'll
No.
do it.
Do it then.
All right.
Send it a text right now.
Where's my phone? Hang on.
It's right underneath you. Let me get you that
I'm
number
going to need
again.
the number. I'm going to fucking taunt it.
As you do.
All right, what's the number?
Number again, 908-666-4419. What are you gonna text it, Cleet? Ask it if it's having a wonderful night. No, ask it if it'll subscribe to our podcast.
Subscribe to Enter the Abyss podcast. You
man.
dirty devil.
Ooh, snap.
I put the devil purple emoji.
Heck yeah. All right, well, let's see what we say.
Yeah, we'll see if they respond during this podcast. I mean, it'll probably go for about 30 minutes to an hour. Let's see what happens.
Hey, guess what? Worst case scenario, we don't get a response. Best case scenario, we have a new subscriber, dude.
Amen.
What's
Satan
wrong
will be
with
on
that?
our side. We're doing the crossroads, baby.
Oh, man, I'm excited.
All right, should we jump into this?
Let's do it, man. So, I mean, I'm assuming you probably want to kick yours off first, the Dyatlov Pass. I'm really excited about this one, so
Yes.
I'll let you jump into it first this time.
Okay. Dyatlov Pass is a story of 9 hikers meeting a disturbing, grisly death by the hands of the unknown. To this day, no theory truly explains all of the horror that fell upon the innocent young hikers. To understand the story more, we have to start at the beginning, to unfold the story of their untimely demise. In 1959, there was a group of 10 friends attending the Ural Polytechnic Institute that were all hiking enthusiasts.
This took place in 1959. I didn't know it was that old.
Yeah, man, it's way old in Russia, and this is back when they were communists. They were grade 2 hikers and hatched a plan to hike to the mountains of Gora Orton, picking the most difficult path possible. The completion of this hike would upgrade them to a grade 3, being the most prestigious hiking certificate in Russia at that time.
Hell yeah, man.
I mean, that just means you're a man's man.
Just load up on a bunch of vodka?
Ironically, they took this so seriously that they did not take any alcohol or cigarettes. And considering they're Russian, means
That's a sacrifice.
dude, they are, yeah.
I mean, their blood is vodka.
I agree. I mean, they love their vodka.
I mean,
It's like us going on a hike without whiskey. I mean,
Yeah,
come on, that's
that's-
bullshit. I remember you when we went camping last. To start their journey, they set out to go to the village of Vizha on January 26, where they would spend the night there and prep for their expedition. On January 27th, they set out on their course. One day into the journey, Yudin started to suffer from severe joint pain. So Yudin here has a long medical history of like medical problems. They're very chronic, a lot of joint pain, and he became so severely overwhelmed with pain that he knew he would slow the hikers down. So he's just like, hey guys, I'm going to head back. I don't want to slow you down.
oh jeez.
So he turned back.
And my question, I mean, they're doing this hike in January in Russia. Why wouldn't you wait to do it in the summer?
Because they want that grade 3 certificate, dude. Like this is an accomplishment. It's like when people climb Everest, you know?
I get that, but you can climb Everest any time of the year.
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to be the grade A badass, you do it in the winter.
I didn't understand. I didn't realize that for the certificate you had to freeze your balls off intentionally.
Well, you know, Mother Russia. So Igor tells Yuru that he will send a telegram when they return from their trek and tell him, you know, what happened, how it was. And the expected time for them to return was 16 days, plus or minus 2 days. So now the group is 9 people, 2 being women, 7 men. The leader of the group is Igor, the one that's supposed to send the telegram. His name is Igor Dyatlov. They named it after him after this. Isn't that
man.
crazy? And he was known to be an extremely experienced hiker and very knowledgeable of the area.
But he's only rank 2 for now. Wait
Well.
till he hits his rank 3.
So fate had other ideas for these hikers as a giant snowstorm hit them and it set them off course. They ended up going to the mountains now called Dyatlov Pass. Now, funny story is the natives that live there, they're called the Mansi tribe. You know what they call that mountain? You ever heard of its name before this?
No.
Dead Mountain. Isn't that crazy? I mean, if that isn't foreboding, I don't know what is. You imagine walking through the snow, how like tiresome that is, uphill, downhill. So Igor and his crew were just tired of fighting the bitter elements, and they're like, hey, we're here, we're on Dead Mountain, we're just gonna set up shop at the base, pitch a tent, and we're gonna wait out the storm. We're gonna sleep for the night, wake up, start in the morning.
That's
Yeah.
a great idea. Just park for the night and go in the morning.
So Yuri from home is waiting. He's waiting for a long time, and he never gets that telegram. Almost 2.5 weeks go by, and he gets concerned and notifies the authorities. They are reporting as missing by mid-February, and a search party is sent out to locate these hikers. On the 26th of February, a search party was able to locate the tent where the hikers spent their last night at the base of Dead Mountain. Something strange. The tent is lying on the ground, and they can't find anybody. They start to look at the tent, and they realized it was slashed open from the inside. Now, why would someone slash a tent from the inside? You have any idea why you would do that?
I mean, other than to get out, maybe.
So just to put this in perspective, this is their only form of shelter to protect them from the bitter elements, and they're not stupid, right? So something compelling, a compelling force would have had to scare them so much that they slashed their tent to try to get away from something.
Or the zipper broke. Maybe they had no other way out of this damn thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
not at all.
I mean, you asked. That's my answer.
Your
the
answer
zipper
is
broke.
stupid. Now, there's also something very strange as well. The tracks were strange, though. They were orderly, and they were walking single file down the mountain towards a grouping of trees. So, the search party follows these tracks, and they spotted something brown sticking out of the snow by a cedar tree. This cedar tree had all the lower branches broken, as if someone had tried to unsuccessfully climb it. Right? That's just weird.
And just broke every branch.
Right. Also under the tree was remnants of a fire, and this is where most of the bodies were recovered, under snow and ice. So let's jump to the conditions of the bodies, because they were it's very strange.
They're frozen as shit, is my guess. So so I'm gonna create my own kind of narration here, if you will. Their zipper broke, so they got out of the tent. They're in the middle of a storm, so obviously they probably linked themselves together, which is why it's single file to kind of help them from getting separated. They maybe found a bear. They tried to climb the tree real quick. It broke. They laid there to build a fire, and they froze to death because they're in a Russian mountain in January.
Wow, Britain is a real problem solver here. Case solved. Let's just stop the episode
I think that's
here.
it. Okay, on to Ohio Penitentiary. Here we go.
All right, I'm going to go back to the bodies.
Let's do it.
First one found was Yuri Doroshenko. He was found face down in the snow in a short-sleeved T-shirt, swimming trunks, and 2 socks with no shoes.
Oh, that's smart.
Well, it just means that he ran out of that tent running away from something.
Yeah, but
It was an act of desperation because he thought he was in immediate danger.
Right. But my question is, why the fuck would you bring a swimming suit on this expedition?
I don't know. I don't know. That's good question. So he had large burn marks on the right side of his head and on his foot.
Ooh.
He also had gray fluid coming out of his mouth. His body was covered in scrapes and bruises, and his ears, nose, and lips were covered in blood. It was determined that these injuries were mostly self-inflicted as he was freezing to death. They believe the gray fluid was caused by some strong force to the chest of the cavity. Did he fall out of a tree and hit his chest? Or did something press on it with extreme force? His official cause of death was hypothermia, but the gray fluid was never put in the official report.
Jeez. I mean, if he was found, he could have been found face down from, like, trying to roll over, but if he fell out of the tree and landed, that would be a kind of what I would think you'd be found. It's if he fell and landed chest first. I mean, that's...
Well, they were all grouped around the remnants of the fire.
Right. Okay.
Right? So that's why most of them were there. They were trying to stay warm, fight the elements, at least I think.
And maybe all the branches were gone because that's what they were using for wood.
There you go. Maybe. I could see that. So the other person that was found was also named Yuri, last name Krivenchenko. He was found laying next to Doroshenko under the cedar tree, wearing a long-sleeved shirt and a single sock. His body was full of bruises and multiple cuts. Burns were found on his foot, up his legs, and on both his hands. Inside his mouth, they found a chunk of his knuckle.
Oh, God.
Yeah, right? Isn't that fucked up? I don't know.
A chunk of his own knuckle?
Yeah, so it was speculated he was biting it to stay conscious, to not die from the cold, or he was doing it so he wouldn't cry due to all the injuries that were put on his body if they weren't self-inflicted.
I mean, if you're biting your knuckles in half to stop another pain, you're in some serious goddamn pain.
Or freezing to death, yeah. So both bodies were moved after their death. Investigators think it was out of respect to the other people, and maybe their clothes were taken to aid the other survivors. So the next body was Igor Dyatlov, the leader of the group. He was found face up, both fists being clenched. He had abrasions and bruises on both of his ankles, as well as cuts and bruises on his face. He was missing an incisor in his jaw. These injuries could be explained through a fist fight, but his death was also ruled as hypothermia.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these, it sounds like they maybe, I don't know, when you're freezing to death, I think we talked about this in a last episode, you kind of lose your mind a little bit, I would think, and so maybe they just kind of were fighting because they just weren't in their states, because it sounds like a chunk of your own knuckle, you're not going to be punching yourself. I mean, maybe you will. I don't know.
Well, so definitely agree with you. That would explain these bodies, but it gets weirder. It gets a lot weirder.
You don't say.
Yes. Next one was the first woman, Zenyatta Kolmogrova. She was better dressed than the others, but one of the sweaters she was wearing had its right sleeve torn off. She had abrasions on both of her hands and bruises on her face. She had a long bruise on the side of her chest that could indicate she was hit with a baton. Her death was labeled as hypothermia due to a violent accident. It is suggested that Igor and her were heading back to the tent before they perished. Sounds like they got
that's
jumped.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this sounds like someone just found him and beat the shit out of all of them. I mean, if a baton, is it like the Dyatlov Pass security team going through there and Kicking the shit out of anybody on the mountain?
Could be gremlins. All right.
I'm thinking that's what it is, man. It's the gremlins.
Next one found was Rustim Slobodin. He wasn't found till March 5th when it started to thaw the snow.
Oh, God.
Yeah. He's lying face down, covered in snow. He had internal bleeding in both of his temples and a large fracture on his skull. Medical experts don't know what caused the injury, but speculate he was alive at least for an hour after it occurred. They speculate he was confused and dizzy and would have fallen into the snow and died of hypothermia.
I can't imagine being alive for an hour with your skull cracked
Yeah, well, I mean,
and freezing to death.
I'd rather freeze to death unconscious than conscious.
Yeah.
Biting your knuckle. Like,
Not just
nah.
you take a chunk out of your knuckle, punching yourself in the teeth to make yourself calm down.
They can't find anybody else. I mean, they are scoping out the area. They can't find the other bodies.
How many bodies have they found now? We're at 4? 5?
So we're at 5. So we're looking for 4 more.
All right.
So they didn't find the other bodies for months. It wasn't until a native from the Manzi tribe discovered them. They had created a den to fight the elements in a last-ditch effort for them to survive the freezing cold. So the first one uncovered was Lidmila Dubina, the other female. Her body was found over a natural ledge with running water running close to her body. The tissue around her lips and mouth were missing, exposing her teeth and upper jaw.
Jesus Christ.
It gets worse, man. There was other tissue missing, so you could see her cheekbone. She had 10 broken ribs, and massive hemorrhaging had occurred in her heart. Both of her eye sockets were empty, meaning both of her eyes had been removed, and her tongue was missing as well. Blood in the stomach suggests she was alive when this procedure occurred.
What the fuck?
Yeah, isn't that fucking weird?
What I mean,
Well,
I would think that, the missing tissue would be just the constant weather and freezing, I would imagine. I mean, but the eye is being
it's the
removed.
stomach filling with blood, right?
Yeah.
That means that it was cut, and she was swallowing the blood. Something happened to her, so her cause of death was ruled hemorrhaging into the right atrium of the heart, making her the only one not to die from hypothermia.
Oh, man.
She was the one that lasted a while, so that even, that gives you more questions.
I think I'd prefer the hypothermia.
Simeon Zola, who was the oldest of the group, was more prepared than the others to combat the elements. He had 3 pairs of pants on and wore a long jacket over his sweater with 2 hats and a scarf and boots.
So he understands they're in a mountain in Russia
We-
in the winter.
He was probably prepared before everything went down, and he probably took the clothes from the other people that were already dead. He was found with 5 broken ribs and a flailed chest. So do you know what a flailed chest is? I had to look it up.
I mean, it doesn't sound good.
So it means like part of your rib cage has just been completely like dismantled.
Oh.
Like it's not connected anymore to the rest.
And that takes some force.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, that takes compelling force. He also had missing tissue on his right eyebrow, which revealed his exposed skull. And he also had a big gash on the back of his head and was found without eyes.
Who's taking these people's eyes?
What's even weirder is his cause of death was ruled hypothermia. Like, yeah, I lost my eyes, but the cold got me.
Jeepers.
It was really
Where'd you get
cold.
those
Dude, maybe
peepers?
it was Jeeper Creepers. I think you're onto something.
Takes the eyes, man.
Holy, dude, we just solved it. Everyone, audience, it was Jeepers Creepers.
It was it. That's it.
So, both Dubina and Zola suffered their chest injuries while still alive. And the medical experts concluded that these injuries were caused by an extreme force that could not have been caused by other humans. They related it to other people that got in car accidents.
Okay.
Something even more explainable, I just want to throw this out here before, is they didn't have any bruising or marks where the force have hit. Like the tissue wasn't bruised at all.
So the rib cage is just totally fucked up without any sign of it on the outside of the body.
Exactly. Pristine. Normal.
God.
Like with that concussive force, you should have marks. You should have internal bleeding on your skin, like bruises.
Yeah. Even if it was done internally, like something got under the rib cage and broke them up, you'd still have some kind of...
They don't have an explanation for it. It's probably the most strangest part of the case. I mean, there's more things that are weird, but to me, it's weird. Alexander Kolbatov was found near the den, along with the others. His clothes weren't ideal, but they were better than his fellow comrades.
Like swimsuit, man.
Yeah, swimsuit, man. Fucking Aquaman. There were rips and tears found in his jacket and pants. Burn marks were also found on his jacket and socks. He was missing both of his eyebrows, and bones can be seen where they once were. His nose was broken, and his neck was deformed, likely suggesting it was snapped. And there was also a gash behind his right ear. It was said that he had died by hypothermia.
Okay.
That guy got fucked up. He broke his neck.
Yeah. Okay, and then at the end of the day, it's hypothermia. That's how he died.
That damn cold, breaking people's necks. That's why I don't go outside in winter.
Risking your neck, literally. There's a gentle breeze.
A little gentle breeze. So, Nikolai Brignoli was also prepared for the outside elements. It has been suggested that both he and Zola were outside the tent where the event occurred, explaining why they were prepared for the cold. He was found with bruising on his lips and his lower left side of his face. He bled internally on his lower right forearm. His skull was fractured and cracked all over the left side of his head. This had to be done by a powerful force. But again, the soft tissue above it wasn't damaged. This would have left him unconscious, and he would have died no more than 3 hours later where he was at. His demise was ruled death by a powerful force that could not have been caused by a human, which is strange considering the other ones. But, I mean, he was fucked up.
I hate this.
Like, could you imagine that? Like, your entire, left skull just gets fractured. But, there's no bruising up there. It's just weird, man. I don't understand.
And it pisses me off. I hate shit like this. Where it's like, oh, their entire body was broken with no bruising. Fucking how?
Do you run into that a lot?
No.
Wow.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm running into it now, and
Who
I'm having
are you?
an internal crisis with this shit.
So let's jump into the theories. Man, we haven't done this in a while. I was just thinking about it when I was writing it. I used to write theories all the time.
I know.
Remember that was Skinwalker Ranch?
There were a lot of theories.
Yeah.
We've just been talking about serial killers and doll islands and things that don't really have quote unquote theories. So I'm excited. Let's hear these things.
Okay. So here's the first one. Investigators believe the local Mansi tribe killed the hikers. So the storm did lead them off course to Dead Mountain, which is their territory. A piece of evidence was a Mansi chung, which supposedly is a symbolic structure that was created at the time of a sacrifice, was about 100 meters to where their campsite was, suggesting maybe they did a human sacrifice. And this could also explain why they would rip open their tent to try to escape, and then the tribe captures them, forces them to walk single file down the cedar tree.
Yep.
Some detractors to this theory point out that the incredible force of the injuries that some have had couldn't have been caused by a human.
Right. I was gonna say a lot of these were ruled that humans couldn't do it. But I mean, if you really want to know it's this tribe, just go search their tribe grounds for eyeballs.
Yeah, there you go.
If you find just random eyeballs, that's all you need.
The last thing of the detractors is there was moose antlers on the top of the chum, suggesting it was to honor the moose they killed. And then the last point of evidence that detractors point out is this tribe isn't known to be violent or to do human sacrifices.
So that takes out all credibility of that.
Yeah, most people actually feel like this theory is debunked.
Maybe you said it was moose antlers that
Yes.
they found? Maybe the moose killed them and they killed the moose that killed them.
Well, maybe it was a skinwalker.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
You should watch that skinwalker episode.
Shit, yeah. So, I mean, maybe these guys are just skinwalker.
Shameless promotion. Well, it was Wendigo, right? It was Wendigo.
Yeah. But
My apologies.
it still could be a skinwalker. You don't know. I mean, they shapeshift a little bit.
Second theory, an avalanche happened. So this would explain why they cut open their tent quickly, because avalanches make a lot of noise, and that's why they didn't try to dress up before they ran from it.
And they ran down the mountain single file away from this avalanche.
So that's the thing, right? So this is one of the most accepted theories to date, but why would they walk in a single file?
Not only that, if they're in an avalanche, they wouldn't stop to have a fucking fire. So I don't buy this one.
I mean, it does explain the possible injuries that they would receive,
Yeah.
because if you get caught in an avalanche and it's pushing you and you hit a fucking tree, that'd fuck up your rib cage.
Yeah, but you'd have bruising.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that doesn't explain that.
If you hit the tree that hard, you're going to have external bruising.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm not a medical doctor or anything, but I think that would be the case.
I'll side with you there.
Oh, man, thank you.
So this is where conspiracy theorists, my favorite people, decide to get a little bit weird.
Bring it on,
Okay.
bro.
So the third theory involves the Yeti.
Ooh, the Yeti.
So what is the Yeti? You know what the Yeti is, right?
Yeah, it's like Bigfoot.
Yeah, it's like Bigfoot, but, in snowy mountains, right?
It's
and
a
cold
snowy
temperatures.
mountain Bigfoot.
The idea is a taller and stronger form of a human, or close to a human, was watching the campers and was making some type of terrifying noise in the night. That would scare the people in the tent to where they would cut it open and try to run away from the creature. Again, it doesn't explain the single file line, but there is a compelling bit of evidence that actually substantiates this.
Oh shit! No way.
Yeah,
They
so
find footprints.
no, all the campers had cameras with them, and
Dude, did they get a picture of this Yeti?
yeah, there is a Yeti picture that they took in the day that was around the camp that they set up their tent.
Bullshit.
No, you can Google it straight up, and it's been verified. Like experts have analyzed this this photo. So if you guys want to look it up, I mean, I'll post it on the YouTube channel. But
I'm gonna pull it up right now as we're doing this.
so this is so if you want to look it up, type in Dyatlov Pass Yeti picture, and it'll pull up. Here,
No,
let's look at it, Britton.
You're Utah. You don't need to pronounce the T. It's a Yeti.
Yeti. So take a look at that, man. And that what?
It's just like the Bigfoot picture, bro. That's fucking blurry.
Yeah, dude, it's who? So who the fuck like? Do you think they were faking a Bigfoot picture
Because look how
the
clear
day before they died?
Look
It's a
how
po-
clear the stuff
So-
is at the beginning of the frame.
right. So it's a Polaroid, and we don't know the distance between this, but this is a legitimate picture that was found on the camera of the dead hikers. Now, again, the quality is bad, so it looks like a Yeti. It could just be another hiker, and it's really blurred out. But
it's a very
dude,
fuzzy hiker.
it looks like a fucking Yeti.
Yeah, that's pretty. I didn't know they actually had a picture of that. That's insane. So I mean, if that's any evidence you need right there, there's a Yeti picture. Dyatlov Pass online.
So there are some cons to the theory, and I mean there was no footprints of a large predator in the area. And there's something that I've been kind of I didn't really tell you yet, but I think I need to announce it. Okay. So when they were testing their clothing, the final bodies of the people that died last, they tested the clothing and it was radioactive.
What the fuck?
Yeah, dude, it was radio fucking active. I mean, the entire valley was actually had trace amounts of radiation around it.
Was there a nuclear reactor somewhere near?
I don't know, man. I mean, that can't naturally happen. It's literally radiation all over their clothing.
Well, all right then.
So that leads us to the fourth theory. So this one postulates that aliens are to blame.
Fuck yeah, dude, aliens. Every time aliens make a story, I'm excited.
Eyewitness testimony from people around that area in the Manzi tribe described seeing bright lights in the sky around Dyatlov's Pass that night when the incident happened. The Manzi tribe described them as glowing spheres that sort of match UFO sightings of today.
So I have a question. I mean, what would aliens be doing on this mountain? I mean, what's so special about Dyatlov Pass for aliens to be there?
Am I like the alien guru? Like, I don't fucking know. Do you see those people? Let's fucking murder them. We're going to murder the bejesus out of them. We're going to fly that craft right into their fucking chest. So here's another interesting fact. The body of Zeman Zola had another camera with it, but it had excessive water damage. When they pulled that camera picture, it looked like he took a picture of a glowing sphere. So I'll go ahead and show that to you now. Yeah, no,
So they have a picture of the Yeti, and
dude, this has everything.
this UFO.
Maybe the Yeti is the UFO. Dun dun dun. So that's the picture. So again, it's really hard
again, kind of
to
blurry.
say what it is. I mean, it's 1959 with cameras, but it's compelling. It's strange. You know, right? It reminds me of that story of the two girls that were in some different country, maybe South America, but they went on a hike and they disappeared. And they found them dead, obviously, and they picked up their phone, and it showed them walking the trail at night and just taking random pictures. They don't know if it was them or if the people killed them.
Oh, Jesus.
But it's just creepy. Maybe
So-
we'll cover that.
Honestly, that's one of the scariest things when you find like a crime and you go through pictures and there's those unexplainable weird things.
It kind of puts context in it. And
But Cleet, I do have a question for you on Dyatlov Pass. How many pictures were there? I mean, did they take a lot of pictures like of them hiking and things?
oh
that
yeah,
they did up there?
yeah. There's plenty of pictures. I'm gonna put a lot of it in the YouTube video. Because again, I mean, they were snapping away. The weird ones were the ones that I pointed out, right? The Yeti one and the one in the sky.
Right, but I was just asking because if that was the only two pictures they took, I'm like, I can't believe that. It's like, oh, they brought this camera and the only two pictures were one of Yeti and one of a UFO.
Well, you know, like they're going out there to see nature, right? If I had a camera, I'd be snapping pics everywhere.
Right, exactly. So if they're taking a lot of pictures, then that's fine. I thought that was like the only 2 pictures they found. But I mean, if they've got a lot, that's good. We can throw it on the YouTube channel for you guys to take a peek at.
Oh, yeah. Last theory is people think it was the Soviet government. Again, so I mean, that would explain like the radiation. Maybe they were testing some type of weapon in that area. Because the Soviets were known to do testing in remote locations with they're trying to develop super weapons. Remember, in 1959, this was during the Cold War, Americans, being amazing, were really past them in technology, and they were trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that would also explain maybe some of the internal injuries, because if you had, like, let's say a shockwave.
The baton hit?
Yeah. Well, the baton hit, but not only that, but like the ribs and stuff. Like if you had a shockwave that broke things, maybe you wouldn't have like a bruise from that. If it was just like some crazy,
right?
Like if a missile went off and
so
like the shockwave.
Funny you said that, because it was confirmed that there were military rockets used around that area. The government denied it happened at Dyatlov's Pass, but they said it was around there.
Oh.
So think about it. Like again, you have a big ass rocket going off in the middle of the night. It could scare you to rip it out of your tent. And then maybe it caused an avalanche. And then, Russian soldiers came over there and just killed them.
Bro,
I think we fucking solved it.
No, what happened?
That's it. It was a combination of the 3 and then the Yeti.
Yeah, I was going to say. So the bomb went off. It woke the Yeti up because of the avalanche. And then there's all this shit going on. So aliens are like, what the fuck's going on over here? So they fly over. And then, because there's radiation and everything, you guys can't bring this out and let everyone know, so they're going to beat you to shit with this baton.
So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. So there's a theory that, it's not even a theory, one of the main leaders of Russia at the time, I don't know his name, but they had a program where they were trying to breed, it was a gorilla and a human.
Nice.
To make a super soldier, right? To have the intelligence of a man and the brute force of a gorilla. People think they may have been successful with that. There's stories of people seeing these hybrids around Russia. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was a combination of all of that.
Could be. And if it's testing, who's to say it doesn't have a smidge of radiation coming off of it?
Well, the missiles would explain the lights.
Yeah.
An avalanche could have, or maybe the missile blowing up could be them running from the tent. Maybe the Yeti was some, animalistic operator under the government that murdered him.
Okay.
Far-fetched as shit.
Well, I mean, when you're dealing with something like this and you don't know, sometimes you have to get a little far-fetched to find the fucking answer.
Could you imagine, though, being Yuri, the first one, that, the
first one. There's 3 Yuris.
Well, yeah, everyone's named Yuri there. The one who, left because of medical issues. How would you feel if you were that person?
You have survivor's guilt.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, survivor's guilt. I'd be happy I was alive, but then, all your friends died. Imagine...
in the most brutal ways.
So imagine all of our friends went on a camping trip, and last minute you cancel, and they got all mauled by a bear.
You're sitting at home rubbing Bengay on your sore muscles, and you find out your entire group of friends got murdered. Guys,
no.
I can't go. Oh, here's the thing. He knew something was going to happen, so that's why he left. He can see into the future, and he knew shit was going to go down. So
that Final Destination. He probably died a week later.
Yeah, he had a premonition. It was Final Destination style. And it all flashed before his eyes, and he's like, "Oh, you know what, guys? My ankles are kind of sore. I'm gonna piece the fuck out."
Well, that ends the story of Dyatlov Pass. Definitely full of mystery, and the thing is, no one theory really explains what happened. All I can say is whatever happened that night, damn.
Yeah, seriously.
That's what I say.
Damn. Damn. I mean, I think theories are kind of like the spices of stories, right? I mean, you can't have a bland old story. The theories just add that extra little...
It's true.
So, anyway, Cleet, thank you. And again, thank you, Bo and Isay, for the recommendation of Dyatlov Pass.
You are the true heroes of Enter the Abyss podcast.
This episode is dedicated to you, as well as Chris, who recommended the Ohio Penitentiary, which we'll jump into right now. So, the Ohio Penitentiary, also known as the Ohio State Penitentiary, is what I'm going to be covering this evening. The prison was in operation from 1834 to 1984 in downtown Columbus, Ohio. Columbus, at the time, had a small prison in the year 1813, but due to increases in population, they needed some more space to put all their convicts. In comes the penitentiary. It was completed in the year 1815 and originally consisted of just 13 cells. The first 2 inmates happened to be brothers by the names of John and David Evans, who arrived on August 15th, 1815.
They were the first 2 people in there?
Yep, in the penitentiary.
And they were brothers. That's crazy.
Beginning in 1897, a total of 315 inmates were executed in the electric chair in the penitentiary.
Hang on, stop. So, the electric chair would be the worst fucking way to go. Why did anyone think that was humane? Can we talk about that?
I mean, it might have been cheap and effective.
Well, it doesn't. So, the Constitution says that there shouldn't be any cruel and unusual punishment, but that would hurt so bad. You know that they put a wet sponge on your head?
On the head, yeah.
To make sure that it kills you.
I mean,
quicker.
You watched the Green Mile movie, right?
No, I have, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to insert a story for you, okay? Again, I have a bunch of random facts. This is something you'll never hear. So, Thomas Edison. So, you know the term AC/DC, right?
Yep.
Do you know the acronym for that?
It's like something currents.
Yeah. Alternate current and direct current. Nikola Tesla was big on alternate current, and it's actually the system we use today. But Edison was big on direct current. So essentially, I mean, I'm not going to go into the science behind it, but there was a war between AC and DC during this time frame and how it was going to rule the infrastructure of America. And Thomas Edison did propaganda and convinced somebody to use DC on an electric chair execution. And it took like 2 hours to kill this guy through there. Like, it was so bad. You should look it up. Like, he's probably the worst convict that was killed by an electric chair. Look it up.
Good God. And again, ladies and gentlemen, Science with Cleet.
I think you got caught on fire, but I'll stop.
Thank you, Cleet, for the daily science experiment, or science talk. So again, 315 inmates were executed in the electric chair in the penitentiary. Executions were usually carried out by local law enforcement, but in the year 1885, the penitentiary became the site for executions. Prisoners were first sentenced to die by hanging, but that changed in 1897 when the electric chair replaced the gallows. Men and women both were electrocuted between 1897 and 1963 when Ohio halted the death penalty.
Okay, real quick. Would you rather die from being hung or the electric chair?
What the fuck you asking me this question, bro?
I would rather be hanged.
Yeah, I'd probably be hanged.
I would not do the electric chair.
I mean, the idea of hanging, I mean, maybe not the idea, but when you drop, usually your neck breaks, so it's a pretty quick. But if your neck doesn't break, you're hanging for a minute.
So humans have been doing that for about 200 years, and we have the science down. They can literally calculate how much rope length they need to snap your neck. Because the idea is if you have too much rope, it'll behead you. And if you just have the right amount, it'll snap your neck. You'll die pretty quick. And then if they don't have enough rope, you will suffocate.
Well, that was a dark segment of Science with Cleet. Thanks, buddy. So yeah, 1963, Ohio halted the death penalty. So since then, they don't do it. Tragedy struck on April 21st, 1930, when a major fire at the penitentiary killed 322 inmates and hospitalized another 230. This was one of the deadliest fires in North American prison history. It started by a candle igniting several oily rags in the west block on the roof. Now, crazy thing is, the fire hadn't been noticed until after the prisoners were already locked up for the night.
That would suck so bad.
It's like, all right, guys, lights out, good night. Holy shit.
Why do I see light?
It's getting a little warm. Can you turn down the heat, please?
Probably the first time the heater was working.
They're like, fucking finally. Okay, that's a little too hot. Once the fire had been noticed and smoke started entering the prison, it is reported that many officers refused to let the prisoners out of their cell and just abandoned them, where a handful of guards did actually assist a few of them.
It's a hard decision, right? Because if you let everyone go, they could kill you.
Right.
Like, they could have like an inmate riot.
Right. Speaking of which, one of the guards was overtaken by some inmates where they stole his keys, letting other prisoners free from their cells. Now, when firefighters finally arrived, a riot broke out and the firemen were attacked with rocks.
Wow.
So you're right. You know, you do a kind thing. You let these prisoners out, some of them, and then they overtake another guard, take his keys. Now everyone's out, and then they're attacking those people that are coming to stop the fire.
Right. Can you trust inmates? Batman reference. Joker version.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So that's in the Dark Knight movie, right? When there's like the cart full of convicts and the cart full of good people,
And they have a button.
yeah, and the people that are like not convicts are ready to push this button immediately.
Because whoever pushes it, the other ship gets blown up, right? It's like it's a lesson of morality.
Yeah. I would say spoiler warning, but the movie's been out long enough. If you haven't seen it by now, then you deserve a bit of a spoiler.
Yeah, so it's funny because like the guard in it was like, yeah, let's push the button because clearly the other people are gonna do it. And there was a prisoner. He's like, just give me it, give me the button, give it to me, because he felt guilt if he pressed it, but he wouldn't if he gave it to the convict. Convict took it and just threw it off the boat and said, that's what you should have done right at the start.
Exactly. It's kind of crazy.
That gave me chills.
Yeah, that was that whole series, that whole Batman series is among my favorite. After the prisoners began rioting, several units of armed guards were deployed to the prison to assist and were stationed on the prison walls and guard towers. There were roughly 500 soldiers sent from Fort Hays, which was the military post in Columbus. Guards stationed at the gates and walls were armed with machine guns, several having bayonets fixed to them. The guards were given the order to shoot to kill, but it only took about 30 minutes for the entire penitentiary to be surrounded.
Damn.
Imagine this big flaming prison and there's all these guards surrounded by machine guns. In the coming weeks, prison officials claimed that the fire was caused as an escape attempt by 3 prisoners. Afterwards, 2 of the accused later committed suicide.
That's a cover-up if I ever heard. Like, don't sue us. It was these guys who committed suicide.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Some historians challenge this claim and state that it was a cover-up from poor management. So, Cleet, you were right on the money.
Yeah, we didn't review this. We never review what we write before we talk about it.
I'm reading my fucking notes.
I'm sorry.
On October 31st, 1952, Halloween night, a riot broke out at the penitentiary, becoming known as the Halloween Riot. Because of overcrowding in the prison, prisoners would resort to riots for improved conditions. Prison officials were also affected as they were needing to care for this increase in prisoners with no additional funding. The riot began with prisoner unhappiness to the quality of food that they were being provided. It started in one of the many cafeterias where several inmates started hitting their cups with spoons in a signal to the waitstaff for additional coffee.
No, but really, prison food sucks.
But these guys, it started because, I mean, the food sucked and they were mad, but they started banging their cups because they wanted more coffee. I mean,
oh, really?
Give them more fucking coffee.
How much does coffee cost? Like, come on.
Prison coffee is probably free. I mean, let's be honest here. It's not going to be like, it's not beans and brews or shit. The warden at the time, named R.W. Alvis, was able to gain control in this cafeteria. In another cafeteria, however, inmates started throwing their food, trays, and utensils. This cafeteria was never calmed and brought back to order. So all these riots in this cafeterias are just bursting out because the prisoners are just done with this shit management there.
Just a violent food fight.
Many of the prisoners returned to their cells on their own, wanting nothing to do with these riots. Other inmates formed wandering gangs and would attack other prisoners. A group of inmates even broke into the infirmary in search of drugs, while other groups set buildings on fire. So it's like, hey, while everyone's rioting, let's go get our fix, bro.
Do you know what this reminds me of?
What?
I know I keep fucking distracting you. I'm sorry. Watchmen, that prison riot.
Yeah,
that
dude,
was
Watchmen
fucking
was
badass.
nuts.
When Rorschach, hang on, the scene where he goes into the bathroom to kill the small person, and the blood comes out from under the door. Good movie.
Yeah, no, that was good. Very violent, as the way it should be. The riot lasted until roughly 10 p.m., in which it took the combined force of the Ohio Highway Patrolmen, police officers, prison guards, and even the National Guardsmen to force the prisoners back into their cells. In the cell blocks G, H, I, and K, the prisoners kept control of their territory and ran the show. On November 3rd, all food and heat were cut off to the prisoners in these blocks in an attempt to get them to back down. So it's like, all right, you wanna be little bitches? We're gonna turn the heat off, and we're not gonna give you any food.
You can be king of the prison, but it's not gonna have heat or food.
So, what are you really king of at this point? Several prisoners at this point attempted to surrender in these new conditions. However, other prisoners refused, throwing items out of their cell block windows at passing officers. The officers ordered them to stop, but after another refusal and really being out of options at this point, the officers opened fire, killing 1 inmate and wounding 4 others. This quickly stopped the riots and order was restored.
Sometimes you gotta make an example.
My question is, wouldn't you know that's kind of the end result? I mean, you're fucking with armed guards. Like, you're gonna get shot. So, I mean, just stop.
They're not gonna slap you. Maybe with a bullet.
And the thing is, there's probably several inmates here that are there for life. So, I mean, they're not getting out. They're probably gonna be like, all right, this is my territory now. But, like, if you're there for a couple years, just fucking behave.
But, you know, contrary to that, what you're saying, if you have a life sentence, you might as well be like, I'm going to fucking do what I want.
Exactly. That's what I said. You're going to run
you're going to kill me? Oh, no. Okay.
I'll just end my life quick.
Game over.
Another riot to occur at the penitentiary was the riot of 1968. On August 20th, 1968, The inmates of cell blocks C and D took 9 guards prisoner. The inmates would then proceed to set fire to several buildings, steal food from cafeterias and supplies from the commissary and prison hotel and prison hospital. The inmates, thinking they have it all figured out, sent a list of several demands to the warden for release of the officers. The list demanded that several guards be fired, amnesty for the rioters, and that finally a presentation of the rioters' grievances be sent to the media.
That's like a reasonable, because when I was thinking about it, I'd be like, I think they were going to say women and drugs. But they're like, no.
Hookers and cocaine.
Yeah, right? But no, they're saying, hey, we don't want to be,
treated unfairly.
We don't want to be reprimanded for the riot. And we just want everything to go back to normal and everything's good.
And
right?
we want this to be publicized at how shitty it is in here.
Yeah.
But I think they knew. I mean, again, they're low on funding. It's overcrowding in Ohio. I mean, there's not a whole lot they can really do. But I agree. I mean, it's like they're probably
it's a reasonable stance.
Yeah, it's very reasonable. So the warden agreed to let the prisoners speak to media members. But after violence broke out among them, he immediately ended the news conference. Infuriated, the inmates then threatened to burn all 9 hostages alive and even threatened to decapitate one of them. They offered to free the hostages if their demands appeared in the newspaper.
Maybe if they said eyeballs and tongue.
On August 20th, the group of Highway Patrol, prison guards, National Guardsmen, and police gathered again at the prison for a rescue attempt. I would imagine, all the groups, can you fix your fucking prison? We're sick of cleaning up after you, bro.
Where's our tax dollars going?
Right there. It became too late in the day to carry out the rescue attempt, and negotiations for the release of the hostages continued. The situation was deteriorating, however, and at 12 o'clock p.m. on August 21st, one inmate stabbed another, causing officers to react. 2:50 p.m. rolls around and it's go time. Officers stormed the cell blocks. The hostages were being kept on the top level of the block.
So wait. So the moment an inmate stabs another inmate, that's what caused them to react? Just a weird thing. And I mean...
Yeah. Well, they're sitting around doing negotiations, and all of a sudden, this inmate stabs him. They're like, all right, fuck it, we're doing this thing. We're going in. So again, 2 o'clock rolls around. The rescue team blows a hole in the roof and then successfully releases the hostages, while another hole is blown in the wall on the lower level.
About damn time.
The rescue team fought their way to the top from the ground floor. Eventually, control was regained in the cell block, thus finishing the riot. As a result, 5 inmates died, 5 prisoners and 7 officers were injured.
Damn.
But hey, all the hostages were released, so there you go. Among the fires and riots, there was also a research experiment that was done on inmates that I wanted to talk about. In the 1950s, a virologist named Chester M. Southam, who was studying cancer, injected inmates in the penitentiary with HeLa cells in order to observe if they could be made immune to cancer by developing an immune response with the injection. Now, if you don't know what a HeLa cell is, I had no idea when I was researching it, it's an immortal cell line that is the oldest and most commonly used human cell line. It was derived from cervical cancer cells that were taken on February 8th, 1951.
I know about this.
Yeah.
From a woman.
From Henrietta Lacks, who was a 31-year-old African-American mother of 5. Chester went on to compare his results of this experiment to another experiment where he injected cancer cells into cancer patients. This observation showed that the inmates that were injected fought off cancer faster than the subjects who had cancer. Many ethical concerns were raised from this experiment, however, as some believed it violated bioethical principles of informed consent, non-malfeasance, and beneficence. So, injecting cancer cells there. In 1984, the Ohio Penitentiary was shut down. The building was vacant for more than a decade after its closure, and during Halloween, it was given the name the Demon Pen. It was used for festivities and lured several urban explorers to it. The building was finally demolished in the year 1998, so not too long ago.
Oh,
12
wow.
years.
I was, 1998? 9 years old.
I was 7.
You're so immature.
Now, like most places that suffer a dark and unsettling background like this, the Ohio Penitentiary was thought to have been haunted. Stories would surface about ghosts that had been left behind from the fires, executions, stabbings, shootings, and even suicides that took place all those years before. It is said that if you wandered close enough to the building, you could still hear the roar of the fires within the walls and even the screams of the men burning alive in their cells. After it was torn down, the arena for the Columbus NHL hockey team was built on the site, and some reports tell of people hearing screams throughout the parking lot and have even reported seeing apparitions. Some still believe it's a haunted site to this day.
I think it's cool they put a hockey team there.
Yeah, It's
Like they wouldn't give a damn.
it's like we're gonna put the penitentiary down, and then we're gonna start knocking each other's teeth out. Why not? So this last report's kind of cool. So it's a report from years ago when a proposition was set in place to have a tourist attraction take the place of the prison, to which a guard responded, "I wouldn't care if they dynamited the place. It's the entrance to hell itself. I can't tell you what is there, what is seen and unseen."
Wow.
So, guys, that is a story of the Ohio Penitentiary. So if you feel like getting a little spooky, go down to the NHL hockey stadium and watch a game. But thank you again, Chris, for recommending that.
Yeah, we love our viewer submissions. Keep sending them in. Again, entertheabysspod@gmail.com. So, kind of disappointed because I sent a text to that number we talked about at the start of the episode.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I was curious about this.
I wrote initially, subscribe to Enter the Abyss podcast, you dirty devil. That was at 10:34 p.m. Didn't get anything. It's now 11:33 p.m. So I said, talk to me, you coward bitch. And then I put a bunch of smiley-faced angel halo emoticons there, and they haven't replied. So if they do reply, we'll talk about it on the next episode. But they seem like cowards.
Now, it asks you to send a text, but when you do, you're going to be staring at the text you sent with no response. But again, if you guys want to check out that number, I thought it was kind of cool. A little creepy, but give it a call. But I think that wraps up the episode.
Yeah. Again, guys, thank you for listening. And as always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next week.